Charleston in December feels like someone whispering winter through the cracks of a summer city. The air is cool but damp, the sky more pearl than blue, and the smell of salt never quite leaves, even when the pine candles try to take over. Nora Bennett had always loved this time of year. She'd start playing Christmas jazz the day after Thanksgiving, wrap presents weeks ahead, and volunteer to decorate her mother's house, even when she knew she'd get criticised for overdoing the tinsel. It wasn't about approval. It was about being part of something, belonging, even if imperfectly. That Wednesday evening, she stood by her small window in her Charleston apartment, threading a string of gold lights across the sill. The faint reflection of herself in the glass, messy bun, oversized sweater, a tired smile, looked back at her. She reached for her phone, half expecting to see a text from the family group chat about ornament colours or dessert coordination. Nothing, just the same muted thread. The last message in that chat was from her mother, Elaine, 3 days ago, a photo of Hazel, her younger sister, in a sequined dress, captioned, "Our little star at the fundraiser last night." Dozens of heart emojis from relatives, none from Nora. She hadn't known about the fundraiser. Her phone buzzed again. For a second, her heart leapt. Maybe plans for Christmas finally. But the name on the screen froze her. Mum. She opened it. "Hey, Nora, we've decided to do something a little more intimate this year. Just the immediate circle. I hope you understand. We don't want any stress this Christmas. And you know how things can get with photos. Love you." Nora read it twice. Then again. The words blurred, not because of tears, not yet, but because her brain refused to translate what it already knew. Not invited, because she'd ruined the photos. The fridge hummed behind her. The clock ticked too loudly. Outside, a car rolled through puddles, its tyres hissing. The normal sounds of life, things that should have grounded her, now pressed in. Too real. She sat down slowly, phone in her lap, and whispered. She actually said it. For years she'd known her mother prized images, coordinated outfits, perfect lighting. Smiles rehearsed until they looked spontaneous. Every family photo was a silent performance. And Nora had always been the one who didn't quite match the frame. Too honest, too blunt, too visibly real. She scrolled through old Christmas albums on her phone. There she was, on the edge of couches cropped by ornaments or someone's shoulder. Always half visible, her eyes lingered on one picture from last year, everyone laughing in matching plaid pyjamas. She remembered the argument before that photo, her mother telling her, "Just smooth your hair and smile, Nora, please. Don't ruin the mood." She put the phone down, face up this time, and stared at the message again. It wasn't about mood. It was about image, and for the first time in her life she felt not sadness but silence. The kind that comes before something changes. Her screen lit up again. Hazel, a message. "Hey, Mum told me she texted you. Can we talk later? It's complicated." Nora stared at it. Her thumbs hovered, then typed slowly. "It's actually very simple." She hit send. Then she stood up, walked to her small desk, and opened her laptop. The pine candle flickered. On the browser bar, she typed, "Kiowa Island Resort, Christmas availability." A part of her already knew what she was going to do, though she wouldn't name it yet. Outside, the drizzle stopped. Inside, the quiet felt like the start of something she hadn't planned, but maybe had needed all along. The next morning broke grey and still, the kind of Charleston winter day that looks like the world hit pause. Nora woke before the alarm, though she hadn't really slept. The pine candle had burned down to wax and memory, leaving a faint smell of smoke. She sat on the edge of the bed for a long time, phone in hand, scrolling aimlessly. Recipes, reels, photos of strangers' families in matching sweaters. It was strange how the world could look so full when you felt invisible inside it. By 10 o'clock, she'd showered, dressed, and pulled her hair back. The mirror caught her reflection. Tired, yes, but sharper somehow. Like the outline of someone who had decided something, even if the details hadn't caught up yet. She grabbed her tote bag, laptop and wallet, and walked down to the cafe on the corner. The one with steamed-up windows, cinnamon lattes and quiet background jazz. It smelled like baked sugar and espresso, a scent that always made her feel both comforted and slightly sad. She ordered a cappuccino, took a seat by the window, and opened her laptop. The cursor blinked in the search bar like a dare. Kiowa Island Resort Christmas booking. She clicked the first link. The homepage glowed with polished photos, beachfront suites, families by fireplaces, words like tradition, togetherness, warmth. She almost laughed. Those words had always belonged to other people in her family. Ever to her, a chat bubble popped up. "Hi, looking to book your stay for the holidays?" Her fingers hesitated for a moment, then started typing. "Yes, for December 24th through 26th, presidential suite if available." After a few exchanges, the representative transferred her to reservations. The voice on the phone was polite, professional, a woman with a calm coastal accent. "Good morning. This is Marisol at Kiowa Island Resort. How can I help you today?" "Hi," Nora said, her voice surprisingly steady. "I'd like to book a Christmas stay." "For 3 guests. Of course," Marisol replied. "May I have your name?" "Nora Bennett." There was a small pause, then a soft tone of recognition. "Oh, the Bennetts. Your family usually stays with us every Christmas, correct?" Nora smiled to herself. "They do. But this year it'll just be me, a beat." Then Marisol's voice softened, without a hint of judgment. "Understood. Let's make sure everything's perfect for you." The words landed somewhere deep in Nora's chest. Perfect for you. No one had ever said that to her in the Bennett household. She gave her card information. "Email and confirm the reservation." Marisol continued. "Would you like to authorize anyone else to access the reservation?" Nora paused, feeling the weight of the moment. The air around her seemed to slow. "No," she said finally. "Only me." "Noted," said Marisol. "You'll be the sole authorized guest and responsible party. I'll email you the confirmation shortly." When Nora ended the call, her cappuccino had gone cold. She stared out the cafe window at the street, at couples walking dogs, a father balancing coffee cups, life moving forward in small ways. For a moment, doubt tried to crawl in. Was this petty, cruel? Then she remembered the text. "We don't want to ruin the photos," she whispered to herself. "You already did." Her phone buzzed. Gabe Morales, her old friend from college, a photographer now living in Savannah. His message read, "Rena told me about your mum. Want me to drive up Christmas Eve? Bring the camera. Let's make your kind of photos this year." A slow smile tugged at her lips. "Bring the lenses," she replied. "All of them." Minutes later, Rena texted, "You did it, didn't you? You booked it. Proud of you. That's not revenge, babe. That's boundaries." Nora laughed softly, exhaling something she hadn't realized she was holding in. As she packed up her things, she glanced at the reservation email now sitting in her inbox. Official. Paid in full, her name at the top. Under authorized guests, none. Walking home, she noticed how light the air felt, even under the grey sky. For once, Christmas wasn't something she was bracing for. It was something she was building. When she reached her apartment, she sat at her desk and opened a new note on her phone. To do tell no one, pack early, bring music. Remember, silence can be power. Outside, a wind picked up from the harbour, rattling the loose pane on her window. Inside, Nora's heart felt both strange and steady, like a song she'd forgotten she knew the words to, and in her inbox, the subject line blinked quietly, "Your reservation is confirmed." 3 days before Christmas, Charleston finally turned cold. The air was crisp and smelled faintly of the ocean, that kind of air that stung just enough to make you aware you were alive. From her apartment window, Nora watched the light catch on rooftops as she sipped her coffee. It was the kind of morning where even silence seemed busy, cars humming far below, a church bell somewhere carrying over the water. She had a suitcase half open on the couch, clothes folded in uncertain stacks. Every few minutes, she'd move a shirt from one pile to another, as if the right combination could make her feel more sure of herself. Her phone buzzed. Hazel. "Mum says we're doing cream and gold this year. I'll send you the outfit inspo anyway, just because." Attached were photos of her sister in an elegant satin dress, curls styled perfectly, matching shoes. The image was beautiful, curated, and sterile. Nora stared at the screen for a moment, then replied simply, "Thanks. Won't need it." She put the phone face down and went back to her packing. Instead of cream and gold, she folded linen trousers, a navy sweater, a pair of slightly scuffed white sneakers. Clothes that felt like breathing. Clothes that didn't apologize. A knock at the door startled her. When she opened it, Rena stepped in, holding 2 paper bags and smiling like sunshine in combat boots. "Coffee? Croissants and moral support," she announced. "You're a saint," Nora said, pulling her into a hug. They sat together at the small table by the window, eating quietly at first. The city sounded muted below. Horns, footsteps, the hum of normal life. "So," Rena said eventually, tearing a croissant in half, "how does it feel being the official host of the most awkward Christmas in history?" Nora laughed softly. "Like standing in the eye of a storm I created but somehow needed." "That's poetic and slightly terrifying," Rena replied. "Do you think they'll realize it's you who booked it?" "They will when they get there." Rena looked up, halfway between impressed and worried. "You're really not going to answer your phone that day?" "No," Nora said. "They didn't want me in their photos. They can have their silence just like they asked for." The words came out steadier than she felt. Gabe arrived an hour later, knocking softly before poking his head in. His camera strap hung around his neck, and he smelled faintly of cedar and cold air. "You ready for our great artistic statement?" he said. "More like a quiet rebellion," Nora replied. He grinned. "Even better. Quiet things last longer." They spent the afternoon planning, not the kind of planning her family did, with spreadsheets and colour schemes, but something freer. Gabe showed her ideas for portraits, soft natural light, movement, imperfection. Rena organised playlists. Songs for emotional liberation, she called them. At one point, Nora caught her reflection in the window, hair loose, sleeves rolled up, laughter halfway to her eyes. For the first time in years, she looked like herself, not performing, not defending, just being. Evening crept in. The city lights glowed amber through the mist. Gabe packed up his gear, promising to meet them at the resort early on Christmas morning. Rena lingered, washing their cups in the sink. "Still sure about this?" she asked. "Yes," Nora said, zipping her suitcase with quiet finality. "This year I'm not chasing inclusion. I'm choosing peace," Rena smiled, drying her hands. "Then that's your dress code, peace." They hugged again, long and wordless. After Rena left, the apartment felt still, not empty, but full of space that finally belonged to her. Nora walked to her desk, lit another pine candle and opened her notebook. On the first page she wrote, "I can be kind and firm at the same time." She read the sentence out loud, liking the sound of it. Her phone vibrated once more. Hazel again. "Just checking in." "Are you mad? Mum's worried you'll do something dramatic," Nora typed back slowly. "Not dramatic. Just different." She didn't send it immediately. She looked at it, then smiled faintly and pressed send. Outside, the street lamps hummed. Inside, the last line of her packing list glowed in the soft candlelight. "Remember, peace is the only matching outfit you need." She closed her notebook, zipped the suitcase fully this time, and let the sound of that zipper seal the decision. Christmas morning arrived with the kind of sunlight that felt almost cruel, too bright for how quiet the world was. The air was sharp and golden, and Charleston's streets were nearly empty, except for the occasional jogger or the distant sound of church bells echoing through the harbour mist. Nora drove the hour down to Kiowa Island with the windows cracked, the cold wind threading through her hair. The road curved along stretches of marshland, where the light shimmered on the water like melted silver. Her playlist was soft, no carols, just quiet piano and low humming voices. She wanted calm. No symbols, no sentimentality, just stillness. By the time she reached the resort gates, her heart had steadied into something like peace. The Kiowa Island resort looked exactly as it had every year. Cedar beams draped in garlands, poinsettias on every step, the same doorman in his red coat, only this time her name, Nora Bennett, was the one printed on every reservation list, every check-in form. She parked her car near the entrance, watching for a moment as valets in gloves guided guests and bellhops rolled suitcases across polished floors. Everything gleamed with the illusion of perfection, the kind her mother loved. Inside, the lobby smelled like pine and citrus. Nora gave her name at the reception desk, and Marisol appeared moments later, elegant in a navy blazer, clipboard in hand. "Ms. Bennett," she greeted with a warm smile. "Welcome back. Everything is ready for you." "Thank you," Nora said softly. Marisol led her to the elevator. "The presidential suite, as requested. You have full privacy. No authorized guests. We've placed a note on file per your instructions." Nora exhaled, tension uncoiling from her shoulders. Perfect. As the elevator doors closed, she caught her reflection in the mirrored wall, not the usual tight, polite smile she'd wear for her family's photos. This one was quieter, truer. By late morning she had unpacked, opened the curtains, and stood on the suite's balcony overlooking the dunes. The sea was pale blue and endless, the breeze salty and clean. Rena would arrive in an hour. Gabe had texted that he was already setting up near the shore. Then her phone buzzed. "Hazel, we're on our way. Mom says we'll be there by noon." "Can't wait for the photos, the weather's perfect." Nora stared at the screen, a small ironic smile tugging at her lips. She typed one sentence, then deleted it. Then typed again, "Have a beautiful day." "Hazel." She put the phone down face down on the table. By noon, the resort driveway was lined with SUVs and pastel suitcases. Elaine Bennett stepped out first, in cream and gold, as promised. Hazel followed in her matching dress, and their cousins trailed behind, balancing garment bags and props for the annual photo session. Elaine's smile was sharp and composed as she walked toward the lobby. When she reached the front desk, the receptionist, a young woman with neatly pinned hair, greeted her. "Good afternoon. Welcome to Kiowa Island Resort. May I have the name on the reservation?" Elaine spoke with the confidence of someone accustomed to being expected. "Elaine Bennett. We've been staying here every Christmas for 12 years, the receptionist typed politely, eyes flicking across the screen. Then her expression softened, professional but apologetic. "I'm so sorry, Mrs. Bennett, but it seems the reservation is under a different name this year. Only Miss Nora Bennett is listed as the host." Elaine blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "She's the sole authorized guest and has requested privacy. No additional visitors permitted without her approval." Hazel frowned, stepping forward. "There must be some mistake. That's my sister. I understand," the receptionist said gently. "But we have to honor the request. Ms. Bennett left explicit instructions." A flicker of disbelief crossed Elaine's face, then frustration, then something that almost looked like fear. "You don't understand," she said, voice rising slightly. "We always stay here as a family. This is our suite." The receptionist hesitated, then gestured discreetly toward the manager's office. Marisol emerged a moment later, calm as ever. "Mrs. Bennett," she said evenly, "I assure you everything is in order. Your daughter has reserved the suite in her name. I'm afraid we can't override her authorization." The words landed like stones in the polished air of the lobby. Hazel looked at her mother, eyes uncertain. "Mom," Elaine's phone buzzed. She looked down, Nora's name on the screen. For a moment, a flicker of hope softened her features. She pressed accept silence. No one spoke. She realized it wasn't a call. It was just the voicemail greeting. Then the line went dead. Upstairs, Nora stood by the window, watching the scene unfold below through sheer curtains. She couldn't hear the words, but she didn't need to. The postures said everything. Her mother's rigid stance, Hazel's hesitation, Marisol's patient professionalism. Nora pressed her palm against the glass. Her reflection overlapped with the image of her family, her face half superimposed on theirs, just like the cropped photos of every year before. Except this time, she wasn't on the edge of the picture. She was on the other side of the frame entirely, by choice. She stepped back, inhaled deeply and whispered to herself, "This is peace." Her phone vibrated again, a message from Rena. Outside the lobby. "Should I bring snacks or champagne?" Nora smiled. Both. She turned from the window, letting the curtain fall closed behind her. The sound of the ocean filled the room, calm, steady, endless. Outside, her family stood waiting at the gate. Inside, Nora poured herself a glass of water, steady hands, even breath. The holiday had begun. The door closed behind Rena with the soft click of a well-made lock. For a moment, the suite felt impossibly still, sunlight spilling across the marble floors, the muffled sound of the ocean breathing through the balcony glass. The air carried the faint scent of pine and something sweet, like new beginnings disguised as luxury. Nora stood in the centre of the room, letting the silence settle around her. It wasn't the kind of silence she'd known in her mother's house, that sharp, disciplinary quiet that followed every uncomfortable truth. This silence was different. It was chosen. "Okay," Rena said, breaking into a grin as she placed the grocery bags on the counter. "First things first. Pancakes, fruit, champagne, and total emotional release." Nora laughed, a real laugh this time, the kind that came from somewhere deep. "You sound like a self-help brunch." "Exactly," Rena replied, tossing her a strawberry. "Step 1, eat joyfully. Step 2, stop explaining yourself. Step 3, never ever send another holiday group text." They both burst into laughter, the kind that echoed across the high ceilings and made the suite feel alive. Gabe arrived 20 minutes later, camera bag over his shoulder, curls still damp from the sea air. "Permission to enter the sanctuary of female revolution?" he asked, holding up 2 coffee cups like an offering. "Granted," Nora said, smiling. He stepped in, eyes scanning the room, sunlight hitting the lens hanging around his neck. Wow, this is what freedom looks like. "Smells like pancakes and rebellion," Rena said. They ate together on the balcony, legs crossed on the warm wooden floor, ocean stretching endlessly in front of them. The sound of waves and laughter mingled into something healing. Nora hadn't realised how much she'd needed that. Not the resort, not the luxury, but the presence of people who saw her without demanding a performance. After breakfast, Gabe lifted the camera, testing the light. "You ready?" "For what?" Nora asked. "For existing unapologetically." He started shooting, not posed, not perfect. Nora laughing mid-bite, Rena dancing barefoot, a strand of hair caught in sunlight. No direction, no adjustments. Just moments as they were. At first, Nora felt awkward, old habits of control creeping in. But slowly she relaxed. Her shoulders softened, her breath slowed. She turned toward the window, toward the sea, and felt the air touch her skin. "Hold it," Gabe said softly. The click of the shutter was gentle, almost reverent. "That's you." She smiled, not because he told her to, but because for the first time in a long time she wanted to. Hours passed like minutes. The suite filled with laughter, music, and the smell of fresh coffee. At some point, Rena sprawled on the couch half asleep, murmuring, "This is the best Christmas I've ever crashed." Nora sat beside her, watching the sunlight fade into amber over the dunes. The day was almost gone, and with it, the last weight of needing to be included in someone else's happiness. Her phone buzzed again, dozens of missed calls, messages, voicemails. She flipped it over, face down, the screen lighting briefly before going dark again. Rena stirred. "Aren't you going to answer?" Nora shook her head. "Not today." She stood, walking toward the balcony again. The horizon was burning gold, the ocean a mirror of light. Gabe lifted his camera one last time. "This one's for you," he said. Nora turned to face the light. No makeup, no mask, wind lifting her hair. "Click," she whispered. Half to herself, half to the sky. The best Christmas is the one you finally invite yourself to peace. Later, as evening settled and the world softened into blues and shadows, they opened the champagne. No toasts, no speeches, just quiet joy. Down below, in the lobby, she imagined her family leaving, frustration hidden under politeness, the tradition disrupted. For once she didn't picture their faces. She pictured her own, unfiltered and real, smiling without trying. The suite around her glowed softly, reflections of the Christmas lights trembling in the glass. The silence that filled the room no longer felt empty. It felt earned. By the next morning, the suite smelled of coffee and ocean air. Sunlight drifted in through gauzy curtains, spilling across the floor in quiet ribbons. The resort was still, the world outside slowed by that peculiar post-Christmas calm, as if everyone was still digesting not just food, but everything that had been said or left unsaid the night before. Nora sat by the balcony door with her laptop open, scrolling through the photos Gabe had sent her overnight. One by one, the images appeared on the screen, her barefoot on the rug, laughing with Rena. Standing at the window with her hair lifted by the wind, none of them were perfect, every one of them was honest. She didn't look polished or posed. But there was light in her eyes that she didn't recognize at first, not the light of performance, but of permission. Permission to exist without asking first. A soft knock came at the door. When she opened it, Marisol stood there, tailored, composed, holding a sleek tablet. "Ms. Bennett," she said, smiling. "I hope your stay has been pleasant. It's been grounding," Nora replied. "That's the only word that fits." Marisol stepped inside at her gesture, taking in the room, champagne glasses, a half-folded blanket, the faint trace of last night's laughter still hanging in the air. "I'll keep this brief," Marisol said, her tone professional but warm. "Our social media and marketing team saw some of the photos your friend posted last night. He tagged the resort. They were beautiful. Authentic, which is rare these days. We'd love to feature a few in our upcoming campaign." Nora blinked. "You're kidding?" "Not at all. We'd, of course, compensate you properly and include your name as the guest photographed subject if you consent." There it was again. Consent. A word that suddenly felt sacred. Nora hesitated, glancing at the laptop screen. The photo on display was the one Gabe had called the real you, her face half-turned, light touching the edge of her smile. She thought of her mother, of all those years of being told to smile properly, of being airbrushed out of family frames, literally and emotionally. "I'd like that," Nora said finally. "But only if you let me write the caption." Marisol's eyebrows lifted slightly. "What would you want it to say?" Nora smiled. "Something true." Marisol nodded, understanding more than words could carry. "I'll have the contract drafted and sent to you this afternoon. No rush and—" "Ms. Bennett, yes?" Marisol hesitated for the first time. "Your family came back this morning. They asked if you might reconsider letting them in. I told them I'd pass along the message, but that the decision was entirely yours." Nora's chest tightened. She turned toward the window. The sunlight over the dunes was sharp and bright, almost blinding. "Thank you for telling me," she said quietly. "But not today." Marisol inclined her head. "Of course." She left the suite with the same calm grace she had entered, leaving behind a silence that was both heavy and clear. Nora sat back down at the table. Her laptop chimed, a new email. Subject: Collaboration Inquiry, Kiawa Island Resort Campaign. She smiled faintly. Life had a strange way of offering mirrors when you finally looked at yourself without flinching. Moments later, her phone buzzed again. "Hazel, I came alone. Mom's in the car. Can I talk to you?" "Just 5 minutes." Nora hesitated. She could almost see her sister downstairs, pacing by the fountain, coat wrapped tight around her gold dress from the day before. "Come up," she typed back. When Hazel entered, her eyes were red, but her voice was steady. "I didn't stop her," she said immediately. "When Mom sent that message, I told myself it wasn't my place. But it was. I just didn't want to make things worse." "You didn't make them worse," Nora said softly. "You just didn't make them better." Hazel swallowed hard, nodding. "She said you'd forgive us eventually." "Maybe," Nora replied. "But forgiveness isn't an open door. It's a key I give when I'm ready." Hazel's eyes filled again. "You sound so calm." "I've been rehearsing silence for years," Nora said with a small, sad smile. "It finally taught me how to listen to myself." For a while, they just stood there, the wind rattling faintly at the glass. "I'm sorry," Hazel whispered. "I know," Nora said. "I'm sorry too, for letting you believe that my love meant saying yes to everything." Hazel looked down, then back up. "You really aren't coming to lunch with us, are you?" "No," Hazel nodded. "Then, can I at least take one photo? Not to post, just for me." Nora hesitated and then nodded. Hazel lifted her phone. Nora stood by the window again, hands in her pockets. Sunlight falling across her face. "Click. Thank you," Hazel said, voice trembling. When she left, the room seemed quieter than before, but not empty. The silence now had shape, meaning weight. Nora turned back to the laptop. On the screen, her image stared back, the woman she had finally met. The morning after felt lighter. The sky was a clean, endless blue. the kind of colour that makes you believe the world forgives itself overnight. The sea breathed softly beyond the dunes, and the balcony rail was still cool from the dawn air. Nora stood barefoot, a cup of coffee warming her hands. She had slept deeply for the first time in weeks. No dreams, no weight. Just the quiet hum of her own pulse syncing with the sound of the ocean. Down below, the resort staff were already moving through their routines, resetting chairs, sweeping sand, arranging breakfast tables. Life kept going, indifferent and gentle at once. She was about to go back inside when her phone buzzed. A message from Hazel. "She's here. Mum, she wants to see you. I told her not to push, but she's parked by the boardwalk." Nora stared at the message for a long moment. The coffee in her hand cooled. Part of her wanted to delete it, to let the silence continue, to protect the fragile calm she'd built. But something deeper stirred, not obligation, not guilt, but a quiet curiosity. She typed back, "Okay, 10 minutes." She changed into jeans and a soft grey sweater, tied her hair loosely, and slipped on her sneakers. No makeup, no armour, just herself. The walk to the boardwalk was short. The morning sun touched the water, scattering light like broken glass. A few early risers walked their dogs along the shore, their voices distant and kind. Elaine Bennett was easy to spot. She stood at the edge of the wooden walkway, coat pulled tight, sunglasses covering eyes that looked more tired than she'd ever allowed anyone to see. In her hand, she held a scarf, gold, the same shade as the dresses they'd worn yesterday. For a moment, neither of them moved, then Nora spoke first. "Morning." Elaine exhaled, the word escaping like surrender. "Morning." The silence between them wasn't hostile this time. It was cautious. They stood side by side, both looking at the horizon instead of each other. After a long pause, Elaine said quietly, "You booked it." "Yes." "Did you want to hurt us?" Nora shook her head. "I wanted to stop hurting myself." Elaine's shoulders tensed, then softened. "I didn't mean that text the way it sounded." "Yes, you did," Nora said, not cruelly, just honestly. "You meant it exactly that way. You wanted control. You wanted the photo to look perfect. And I didn't fit." Elaine's eyes flicked toward her, wet behind the sunglasses. "I thought beauty meant keeping everything contained." "Beauty," Nora said softly, "is how we treat people when no one's taking the picture." The wind carried the words out over the dunes. They lingered there, gentle but heavy. Elaine looked down at the scarf in her hands. "I don't know how to fix this in one morning." "Good," Nora said. "Then let's not pretend." They stood there for a while, watching the waves crash and roll back. The gulls cried overhead, white flecks against the sky. Finally, Elaine spoke again. "You've always been the one who says things I don't want to hear. And you've always been the one who pretends that makes me wrong," Nora replied. A small, broken laugh escaped Elaine. "You sound like your father." "I'll take that as a compliment," Nora said with a smile. Elaine nodded once, slowly. "I'll try, Nora. I can't promise much, but I can try." "That's enough," Nora said quietly. Trying is real. For the first time, her mother looked directly at her. And though the expression was still guarded, there was something new there. The smallest flicker of recognition. They didn't hug. They didn't take a photo. They just stood together, the ocean between them and beyond them, holding the same silence for the first time, and it wasn't empty anymore. After a few minutes, Elaine adjusted her scarf. "You should send me those resort photos," she said, almost playfully. Nora smiled. "They're not for the family album. Maybe one day." "Maybe, but not today." Elaine nodded again, half accepting, half aching, and began to walk back toward the parking lot. She turned once before leaving the boardwalk. "Merry Christmas, Nora." Nora's smile reached her eyes. "You too, Mom." And just like that, her mother was gone, swallowed by sunlight and distance. Nora stood there a moment longer, breathing in the salt air. The world didn't look different, but she did. She walked slowly back to the resort, her phone buzzing in her pocket. A new email from Marisol, campaign agreement attached. Congratulations. Up in the suite, she sat at the desk again, opened her laptop, and looked at the photo that had started it all, the one Gabe had called You. She stared at it for a long time before typing her caption. Some pictures you take to remember. Some, you let go, because you finally remember yourself. She hit send. Outside, the waves went on breaking, rhythmic, eternal. Nora closed her laptop, took a deep breath, and let the sound of the sea fill the space around her. The picture they didn't take was the one that finally set her free.